Can we trust everything that we believe God is privately telling us? That's an important question. People who claim to see visions, hear voices. Let's try to answer that today. This is Mere Catholicism. I'm Marcus Peter. So, Catechism of the Catechism Compendium, paragraph 10 says this: while not belonging to the deposit of faith, private revelations may help a person to live the faith as long as they lead us to Christ. The Magisterium of the Church, which has the duty of evaluating such private revelations, cannot accept those which claim to surpass or correct that definitive revelation, which is Christ. Now, what does that mean? That's the context you and I need, really. That is it in a nutshell. If the voices that we are hearing, if the quote-unquote guidance of the Holy Spirit that we are claiming, if the inspirations and inner locutions and movements that we are feeling, we claim is coming from the Holy Spirit, it will always, always, always conform to the Scriptures, to the sacred tradition of interpreting the Scriptures, and therefore to the authority of the Church. Yes, you heard me right. I come from a Pentecostal background, and in the Assemblies of God, it really was questionable whether God was speaking to people because there was no authority. The pastor became a kind of authority, if you will, but that was about it. Every person's interpretation was valid. But in the Catholic Church, thankfully, we have the authority of Christ guarding his magisterium, and so divine revelation in a public manner was given by God, culminating in the person of Jesus Christ, handed down to his apostles, and it has culminated and ended at the death of the last apostle. Now we add nothing to it. No pope, no bishop, no priest, no layperson can ever add an iota to it. They can't change it. What can they do? Hand it forward. That's all they can do. Hand it forward. So what about those people who claim to see visions and dream dreams, who claim that the Holy Spirit inspired them in a certain way? If we know what Jesus has handed down in the deposit of faith, then we know what are the areas within this deposit that allow for private revelation. So if I say the Holy Spirit told me to pray and read the Scriptures, I can believe that the Holy Spirit did that because that's well within the call of a Catholic faith. If a person claims that the Holy Spirit told me that the Vatican is demonic, I'm sorry, buddy, but that's not the Holy Spirit. I don't care how much money you put behind that. I don't care how much authority you put behind that. It is simply not the Holy Spirit. The authority of the Church becomes the final judgment for private revelations because Christ is her authority. None of us can individually claim the authority of Christ outside of union with his body, the church. To love Christ is to love his body. And that's why Hebrews 1, verses 1 to 2. In many and various ways God spoke of old to our fathers by the prophets, but in these last days he has spoken to us by a Son. And that Son has handed down his church, which is the pillar and bulwark of truth, as we know in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 15. John of the Cross, in giving us his Son, his only and definitive word, he has spoken everything to us at once in this sole word. There is nothing more to say. Anyone who claims to say anything more is not of Christ. God revealed through salvation history. Christ is the heights of salvation history. Christ handed down to his apostles. His apostles ordained successors. To this very day, the successors of the apostles safeguard that one deposit of faith. Nobody can add to or subtract from it. And that, my friends, is our assurance. The gates of hell will not prevail because the teachings of the church will never change. And so, the next time someone claims to see visions, dream dreams, or claim that God has spoken to them, test the prophecy by means of what the church has already revealed. If it is consistent, you can reasonably trust it or discard it if you want. So private revelation doesn't influence your salvation. But if it is not consistent with the teachings of the church, reject it outright and tell them, this is not of Christ, this is not of his church, and therefore it is not of the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Marcus Peter.